Today, we stand on this edge of another technological transformation. It will touch every profession, every classroom, every hospital. I know what many of you are feeling about that. I can hear you. There is a fear.
He can hear you, so can we. That was former Google CEO Eric Schmidt getting booed during his commencement speech at the University of Arizona last week.
That's right. His comments about technology and how new graduates are being impacted by AI did not sit well with the audience. As well. My goodness.
Yeah, you can say that again, guys. So this is happening at college campuses across the country. Students, they're rebelling against AI. They're holding protests at Columbia University, Indianapolis, Central Florida, just to name a few. In a new Business Week article, it was featured in the Forecast newsletter. Joe Constantz and Victor Sweezy, well, they write that the unique threat of artificial intelligence, what poses to students, education, and their hopes of someday landing a job has made the university a powerful crucible for anti-resistance. Well, I spoke with Joe earlier about it.
Some of the concerns are, it's very multifaceted. There's a lot of other things that students are worried about. I think there's the climate impact. That's something that this generation really cares about and is very concerned about. And so, you know, they see news about data centers and how much energy those data centers take and what it really takes to power these systems. They're concerned about that. They're also concerned about things like, you know, critical thinking. They go to college because they want to develop their critical thinking skills. And I think that they just see sometimes with their peers, if their peers are overusing chatbots, sometimes that means that they're outsourcing the work and the thinking to these tools in a way that they feel like isn't really helping them. And can honestly lead sometimes to a bit of a dependence on these tools. And so they don't like that. And then I think another kind of fierce source of opposition is worry about AI you know, entering the arts and what that does to art and human creativity. So I think that, yes, the job market fears about displacement are certainly present, but there are a lot of other things that young people are concerned about.
Now, at the same time, you have companies that are looking for people who are AI savvy. So don't they need the skills too? Absolutely. That's what I've heard time and again from all of the executives that I talk to. They're looking for young people who are, you know how to use these tools, use them effectively, and are excited about them and the potential that they bring. And they're really looking to, in many cases, to these young people to come in and shake up their organizations because they don't necessarily have preconceived notions of how the work should get done. And so they can come in, use AI, and find brand new ways of doing things. So executives are certainly looking for that. But it's interesting when I've been talking to college students and for the stories I'm writing about the job market, they are often deeply conflicted. Some of them say, I am using AI for my internships, but I don't know how to feel about it, or I'm not wild about it, but I feel like I have to because in order to get a job nowadays, this is what employers are looking for.
But let's get into that sentiment because there's a Gallup poll out that kind of breaks it down a little bit more.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so this Gallup poll looked at Gen Z sentiment about AI in particular, and it found that even just from last year to this year, sentiment has deteriorated among this group. It's last year, almost 30% of Gen Z respondents said that they were hopeful about AI and the technology. And this spring, only about 18% said that they were hopeful. And there's rising anxiety, there's rising anger, in many cases because they see this technology becoming, it's no longer an option. It's something that they feel like they have to use, either in the classroom or in order to get a job.
Yeah, and you talk about the classroom. I mean, there's also this whole thing around, using AI in the classroom and anti-plagiarism. I know when my daughter goes to college orientations, they lay out a whole, AI agenda and what's allowed, what's not allowed. It's changing there too.
It absolutely is. And I think what's difficult sometimes for students is that different professors will have different policies and sometimes it's not consistent. And so it can be very difficult for for a student who, cares very much about not plagiarizing, and following the rules. And so they're very hesitant to use AI in a lot of cases. And yet when they graduate, they're expected to be completely fluent and the most savvy AI user out there. So it can be difficult to understand how to navigate that.
How are colleges responding to a lot of these protests that are going on in some of the colleges?
I think that, in some cases they're setting up forums to talk to students to try to open up that channel of communication, because I think that in a lot of cases it's mostly coming from students feeling like they haven't been consulted in some of these decisions, they're not being heard. So there's some of that, but I think the main argument from universities is we would be doing students a grave disservice if we didn't include AI in our curriculums in some form or fashion, because this is what employers are looking for. This is where the direction companies are heading. And so, that's kind of how they're trying to adapt.